Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WMA podcast. My name is Abby Cormier, and I will be your host for today's episode. Joining us today is Ashleigh Craven, who is Chief Marketing Officer, CMO of Pocketnest, a financial wellness platform based out of Detroit, Michigan. Ashleigh worked for various big companies before starting at Pocketnest. Ashleigh received her undergrad from University of Michigan and her MA from Wake Forest. In today's episode, we discussed her journey to her career in marketing and becoming CMO of Pocketnest, how Pocketnest functions from a CMO perspective, her outlook on the profession and making finance less jargony, how she thinks about work-life balance, as well as her resources she uses to grow professionally, along with so much more. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining me today on the Michigan State University podcast. I'm Abby Cormier, your host, and I'm joined here today by Ashleigh Craven. Ashleigh is so fortunate and so lucky to be joining us. She works as CMO for Pocketnest, and we're just so happy to have her on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat all things finance and millennials and getting into wealth management. Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun conversation.
Great. We're so happy to have you on. I guess just to start things off, Ashleigh, if you want to give everyone just a background on you, your experience, and how you got to where you are in your career today.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually did my undergrad at the University of Michigan, and I love the Spartans, have lots of friends in East Lansing. So we did my undergrad in English and Communication Studies, and at that time thought I was going to go into journalism, and then very quickly learned that journalism is a very tough market to get into when it comes to wanting a big paycheck. So journalism is a little bit tough. So right out the gate, actually, I entered my career working at an advertising agency and worked there for about 4.5 years, servicing mostly General Motors. So doing like vehicle launches and sustainability, safety communications, all that kind of fun stuff. So working with journalists, but on the other side, they call it the dark side, the PR side. So I worked I like to say I grew up at ad agencies. So I worked at an agency for several years and then moved down here where I currently live to North Carolina to go to grad school at Wake Forest. And still at that time, just kind of wanted to learn more, knew that I wanted to still be in the same field, but felt like really called to more structured education. So came back down for grad school, and then quickly, like during grad school, got scooped up into another agency down here in North Carolina, and things just kind of snowballed from there. Worked at that agency, fell in love with that job, met my husband, fell in love, got married. And so I've been living in North Carolina for the past almost 10 years now. So throughout my career, having worked at those ad agencies, I'm mostly, like I said, I started off working in automotive, and then from there went to like CPG, athletic apparel. In fact, do you remember Sophie shorts? Did you ever wear those growing up? Like the shorts you rolled over?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah. Yes.
So yeah, the cheer shorts brand Sophie. So anyway, I launched a spring line for them a few years ago. So anyway, worked across a bunch of different sectors, and most recent, I was working with early childhood education. So kind of really all across the board. And Jessica Willis, the CEO and founder of Pocketnest, the financial wellness platform, reached out to me and asked just for some support and help with some branding. And that quick, over time, it went from just, hey, can you help me out a little bit? I have some questions, to, hey, nights and weekends, to fast forward. And now I think I'm celebrating my second year being full-time at Pocketnest this year. So there was definitely a year and a half or so of having two full-time jobs, one working, my normal daytime job, and then Pocketnest is a, nights and weekends, but really it was two full-time jobs. And the moment I knew I needed to step away and choose one was when I was at dinner with the president, or excuse me, not dinner, I was in a meeting with the president of my company, and I was missing a call and a meeting for a client for Pocketnest at the same time. And it was like, both options were bad. I can't step out with the president to be like, hey, I got my side gig. And with the client, I couldn't be like, oh, I'm not real, so anyway, at that moment, I, figured that moment out, and then very quickly was like, this shit has got to fix this up. So anyway, that was about almost 2.5 years ago. So yeah, my background spans marketing across the board, again, through lots of different sectors. And financial wellness is incredibly exciting, and it's a fun and different sector. It's a lot less robotic than I thought it was going to be. I like to make it a little bit more fun. And in fact, my my mission, most client calls, is to make Jessica laugh, to crack her up. So I feel like, talking finance can get kind of boring. So you got to make it more exciting and sparkly.
Fantastic. I love your background. I like how vast it is and how many times you've changed all these different segments. So your current role at Pocketnest, you serve as Chief Marketing Officer, CMO. Can you tell us more about what that entails and what it's like holding such a high position?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, I love it. I love working with Jessica. Our team is incredible. We're continuing to grow. I think the Pocketnest team is my favorite team I've ever worked with in my life. I think that there's an incredible culture and just connection with the whole reason we exist is to bring financial wellness to the masses. And I feel like we're all really bought in on that. And so that's a beautiful thing. What my role is, my role really spans across several different big buckets, one of which is supporting sales and lead generation and all of that fun stuff, and monitor developing and growing the website and all of that, the sales functionality therein. And then I'm also doing, always talking with current and prospective clients. And that's that intermediary. So there's sales and prospecting, then there's current clients that I'm servicing with, client account services. And then the third big portion is engagement. And so that is when I'm paying close attention to our end users. How are they using the platform? Are they driving value, getting value from it? Are their stakeholders getting value from the platform? And really digging in to understand what's working, what's not, what needs to change, to then ultimately go back to the product team and say, hey guys, there's a disconnect. People are looking for this and our product is doing that. We need to figure that out. So it's a really interesting role. I think it's fun that I get to, flex muscles that I've been growing throughout my career, the general email marketing, all, website marketing, all that fun stuff. And then layering in more, which is product marketing and user engagement, and really understanding what makes users tick and helping to drive the product. So it's a lot of fun. It's no 2 days are the same. I could say that too.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So being at Pocketnest you've been there for a few years now. What have been like the hardest challenges you've personally faced or you've seen happen at the company so far?
Yeah. So I would say money. So, and let me expand on that. Like I said, grew up in that agency world. And so clients would come to us when they had big fat budgets, and we would just make, the world was our oyster. We could talk to celebrities to get them on board with their plan, whatever, we could think big and huge. And then coming to a startup, I still, thinking big and huge, but also needed to tailor that to be much more entrepreneurial and crafty and scrappy. I almost said snappy and scrappy, where working on a really thin budget accomplishing a lot. So I think that was a big challenge, but it's been a fun challenge. We would have clients, prospective clients, investors, prospective investors, you name it, asking us, what is your customer, your CAC, your client or customer acquisition cost? How much are you spending in paid media? What does your paid marketing monthly budget look like? And I would always I would feel so vulnerable because I would say zero, nada, zilch. But then at the same time, we were still performing incredibly. We were getting those sales leads, growing at least 30% on a monthly basis, growing our clients, our book of business 30% consistently. And so things were working, but I was still vulnerable in saying, we don't know what our CAC is or our CAC is because we haven't spent a dime yet. So therefore it's technically zero. But anyway, figuring that out over time, working with a really smart agency partner, and now obviously having a marketing budget to play with has been a lot of fun. So I think the challenge is both an opportunity and a challenge in that, when you change gears, as I have throughout my career with those many different sectors, what keeps you up at night is also what, thrills you and keeps you going throughout the day. So I think it's both scary and beautiful.
That's awesome. And I know, coming from a marketing background to now be in such a financial industry, what is your role in particular? I know when I spoke with Jessica, she said you do a great job of making finance less jargony. Do you want to elaborate on what she really means by that?
Yeah, for sure. So Jess, we started off, Jess would write these blog posts, and I'll tell a quick story. She would send me all these blog posts to edit. And I remember being on the plane. I was lucky enough to be going to France with my husband. And I was like, oh, I can just edit these real quick on the plane. And I was like hours deep into editing these. And I was like, oh my Lord, the average person doesn't know what asset allocation means. We need to back it up here. So it started off with the blog posts of just, changing the voice of Pocketnest, creating a voice that's talks to people like they talk to their friends. We are really targeting millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, younger people who don't robotically talk. If you're not in finance, speaking those, big clunky words and things that don't feel approachable. We've learned over time that people, especially millennials, do not trust banks, do not trust financial institutions, and instead want to figure it out themselves. But in the meantime, are still missing critical elements of their financial plans because they're not going to those advisors because they don't trust them or they can't afford them. And so where Pocketnest comes in is we help to serve as that mediary where we can help translate and then steer people in the right direction. So for example, with Pocketnest, we walk people through all 10 themes of financial wellness. So one is a snapshot. Well, really, it's not just a snapshot, it's your net worth assessment. But net worth assessment, what does that even mean? No, it's just your snapshot. We walk you through how much money you have, how much money you owe, and therefore, where you're left. So we walk people through all 10 themes of financial wellness, and then we're identifying gaps in their plans and then helping direct them where to go to fill those gaps. And so before, you may go see a financial advisor, which is incredible, but there's still that disconnect of having that trust and the true understanding and spending the time. I mean, time is money now. Spending the time to really understand and implement what an advisor is trying to tell you. So what we do is we kind of cut out a few steps and say, hey, let's get you to where you need to go. Still go talk to that financial advisor, go talk to whomever that is, but we'll prep you to know what to say when you get there. So making finance more approachable and more fun, going through our email campaigns. Recently we had a conversation with a client, and it was so funny because they were going through a couple of email campaigns that we had developed, and they said, we were reading through this and we just don't know. It just doesn't really sound like our language. You talk about hashtag besties and like avocado toast and like planning with your boo. Like, what does this even mean? This isn't us. And so I kind of took a moment and laughed and I said, well, tell me about how, like, what does your engagement with millennials look like? Oh man, we cannot reach them. They don't open our emails. We can't get a hold of them. Well, what are your emails typically saying? Well, the typical like asset allocation and jargon and the general finance language. And so it was kind of funny where I helped them reveal it to themselves. That's what the language of our brand is it's taking these really, scary topics and making it fun, approachable, making it, financial planning with your boo. Really, it's just planning with your spouse. It's like, general financial planning practices. But anyway, we try to talk in a way that gets people to open their email. When you're getting an email from your bank or from your credit union or your advisor, sometimes the subject line is like, oh, woof, I need to look at that later. That just seems really overwhelming. But instead you get a headline that says like, I don't know, I'm going to make something up, like save on your avocado toast, or that was really stupid copy. Pretend that I didn't say that. But, using the different and fun language to get people to open the emails, engage with their financial institutions, and ultimately access financial wellness that they previously hadn't.
I think that's amazing. And I think that's what really makes Pocketnest so great. And I love that our listeners are getting to hear from both you and Jessica about the company, about the mission. I think a lot of us, this is something that we would be using right away. And I think I'm so happy to have your perspective and hers on the show this season.
Thank you.
Of course. Along the lines of Pocketnest a little further, where do you see the company going in the next 5-10 years? What are some goals that are in the near future?
That's a great question. I would love to grow my team. I'm like I mentioned, I'm based in North Carolina. The company itself is based out of Michigan, but I would love to hire a whole team. I think right now, being able to do more for our clients and for end users is just a dream of all of ours. I would love to be able to make the product what it really, work with our team to make the product what we really think it could be. But right now we're constrained with time and resources and dev and just needing to get the minutia of the general, like tactical block and tackling stuff done on a day-to-day basis. But I think the more we grow, the more we'll be able to hire to help us keep those day-to-day things rolling while we're able to do a lot more of the, the big building and really understanding that user and what they want and what they don't want, to be able to reflect that in the product itself. So I think that's really a soft and cushy answer. I think as far as like the business is concerned, I know that Jessica has ideas in mind about an exit and, but I think short of that and short of like however much money we want to raise for our next capital raise, short of those really hard numbers, I think it's more about growth of the company and growth of making our mission real. Right now we launched in October of 2019. We have 34 clients, many of which are financial institutions. We have, oh gosh, I want to say 6,000 users, but I feel like we have more than that. So we have less than 10,000 users. And I would love to see those numbers explode. I would love to see, on any given college campus, any given bank that, we're working with them. I think that is such a shiny gemstone in our field of vision, is really having that kind of omnipresence and really making a real impact in people's lives.
That's awesome. I really enjoy hearing like everyone's different perspectives of what the future holds for them and their business, their company. I guess to pivot a little bit and to get more onto you, I'd love to hear about how you manage your work-life balance. I know the company is based in Michigan. Are you fully remote? How do you separate your work, home life balance in the day-to-day?
Yeah, I love that question because I think I may have answered it differently 2 years ago, but I quit my full-time job in August of 2020 to come to Pocketnest full-time. Most people, including my previous boss, was like, "You're going to a startup now during COVID? Are you sure?" And it was the best thing I could have ever done, not only because the company is amazing and I love so much what we're doing. All of that is true. And I think work-life balance, when you are working for a tech startup, it like those two things combined just allows you to create your day that works for you. So I am fully remote. I go to Detroit probably once a quarter, try to go in and, have some FaceTime, but also, face-to-face meetings, whiteboarding sessions. Those are really important and kind of need to be in person, but really it's only once a quarter. And finding time for a work-life balance, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I think if I want to get up and go for a run and lift and then not start working until 10:30, but like get my shit done throughout the day, it's fine. Whereas like in corporate America, if you're not in the office around 8:30, like that's a problem. So I think having a lot of flexibility is so important to me. And truly, I think it's the way that we humans work. I do not think that we are hardwired to sit at a desk for 8, 9, 10, 12 hours a day and just crank shit out. I do not think that harbors creativity. I don't think it harbors curiosity. I don't think that harbors innovation. Anything that like we're trying to do, I think that just stamps it out. So I think being able to have the freedom and flexibility to, like I said, get my shit done. I get my work done, and I get to play with my puppy. Puppy, he's 8 years old, 7 years old. But I get to work out throughout the day whenever I want. I get to step away and make lunch and have, a home cooked meal and what have you. So I think finding that flexibility is so important, because I think it's requiring a mind shift of what we call productive and what we call a work day. So, and I'll be the first to say, like, I work on weekends. Sure, I work nights. Like, it's not 5 p.m. and I turn my computer off and I'm dead to the world. But I don't think it's like that for anyone. And I also don't think it's like that for people who sit at their desk for 12 hours a day. I think you're always kind of on call. So I think there's some room to explore with this next generation of how to take freedom and flexibility and make it truly flexible, in that you're not working all hours of the night still just because you wanted to get that like mid-morning workout in or what have you. I think there's still room to explore to find a way to make sure that that you're living your best life, that you're healthy, exercising, having really good relationships, and really being fulfilled by work. But I think one thing that really helps that is our team culture. The company that Jessica Willis is growing, and that we're growing as a leadership team, that's so core to who we are as people, as wanting work to be an enjoyable part of our lives, because it's a big piece of it. So yeah, I think just creating what works for you, and I have found that having a flexible schedule helps me be way more productive, and like I said, curious. And I think it helps you innovate and just create more than having those hard lines and ridges.
Yeah. I think it's really awesome hearing lots of different perspectives on the work-life balance. As a lot of us, I'm a senior. Most people who listen to this might be seniors as well. Just thinking about, am I applying to a fully remote job? Do I want a hybrid work schedule? What works best for me and what I want? So I love having an opinion in that as well. What do you use as far as resources go? Do you listen to podcasts? Are there certain books? Is there anything you're currently doing to just grow and learn on your own?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love podcasts. I think, and speaking of like work-life balance, I feel like I love to split my podcast between thinking and laughing. So like there are plenty of podcasts that I love to listen to. In fact, while I was cooking my lunch today, I was listening to an episode of Crime Junkie. So which is not professional development, it is the opposite. But anyway, so I think like a lot of fun things like that. And then from a professional development perspective, I think I think just finding people that inspire you, whether like whatever channel that is, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or conferences or whatever's available, podcast, whatever's available to you, as long as you can find someone that inspires you and makes you excited to do what you do for a living, I think you're winning. So sometimes I find that in podcasts. I love How I Built This by Guy Raz. I think that gets me excited to be like, oh, okay, the guy from Tom's was penniless at 20 and he made, he made it work, or he figured it out. But I think that's great. I love Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. I know that's a tried and true. I think that, women in leadership, I think really need to continue to support one another. I think I've seen in some previous positions, I've seen women in leadership tear each other down because they're used to that old way of thinking. They grew up in the, being the only female in the room and having to really claw their way. And so I think it's really, really, really important that we support one another. And when we see each other succeed, to really boost each other up instead of stepping on each other. So anyway, that Lean In was really important to me, learning about Sheryl Sandberg, how she carved her way at Google and then at Facebook and now elsewhere. But yeah, I think inspiration, wherever it is, you got to run with it.
Awesome. Those are great. I'm interested in reading that book. Actually, I've never heard of that. So I'm curious to take a look at that.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. She has another book that I haven't read yet, but it's been on my bookshelf for a couple of years now, but she wrote Plan B. And I think it's because shortly after, so Lean In was a huge success. It's about women in business, how she went from, I can't remember her role at Google, but then she was the COO at Facebook forever until very recently, telling a story of how women, we need to not only stick together, but also raise our hands more, how, find a seat at the table when literally when there's a business meeting and there's 10 seats at the table, the men go and sit down and the women will stand in the corners. And she's like, no, in that instance, get your ass at the table, sit down. So anyway, so her first book is kind of about that. And then the second book, again, I haven't read it yet, but it's called Plan B. And I think it's about how she had to shift her life a bit after her husband and the love of her life passed away. And I think a lot of her perspectives changed. I could totally be making that up. So definitely look up that book and make sure that I'm right.
Okay. I for sure will. Is there anything or any advice you have for our college listeners, or just if you could give advice to someone our age, what would that be?
Yeah, keep at it. When I graduated college, so I graduated at the height of the financial crisis in 2009, and the job market was just stupid. It was terrible. So I had 3 jobs, one of which was an unpaid internship at an ad agency, and the other 2 were just like little hourly things just to make money and hustle, because it pays off. That unpaid internship grew into a job, and then I rode that job up through the ladder, and then that got me to working directly with Mary Barra and her team at General Motors. And it just it's incredible that if you just put the work in, what they say, I think I saw, who was it? What athletes always say, be the first to show up at practice and the last to leave, that kind of thing. You don't have to be the first and last in the office. Definitely not back to that work-life balance concept. But I think always, just don't give up on your goals. Don't give up on your dreams. Yeah, it will be hard. Yeah, you're going to stumble and you're going to fall, but falling is all a part of the journey, and just know that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
That's amazing. Ashleigh, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. Your advice, your knowledge, it's been invaluable to me, and I'm sure the rest of the listeners. So just thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abigail. I appreciate you having me, and I'd love to keep our connection. Email me and always reach out. I know you have a job secured. That's incredible. But other Spartans or college folks, reach out. Ashleigh at Pocketnest.com. Would love to meet you. And like I said, I'm growing my team in the next year or so.
That's amazing. Thank you.
If you like what you just heard, please like, comment, and share. This is Lance Mullen, producer of the MSU-WMA podcast. MSU-WMA, or Michigan State University Wealth Management Association, is a student organization part of the Eli Broad College of Business, located in East Lansing, Michigan. Our mission is to inspire and educate the next generation of financial planners. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed, please check out our channel on all platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and check out our social media at MSU-WMA and msuwma.com.